Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelist. I'm Will, and today might be the last time we see each other for a while. But it doesn't have to be, because for the low, low price of free 99, you too could subscribe to the Pixelist and be blessed with nerdy content all year round. Because otherwise, it's going to be a year until Season 3, because we have reached the finale of The Legend of Vox Machina Season 2, Episode 12. And man, there's a lot to talk about. But before we jump in, I tried to keep the intro short and sweet this season, but this one's going to be a tad longer, so bear with me. I wanted to take this last chance to, say a couple things real quick. And most importantly, that is thank you to everyone that has checked out the channel, that has checked out these videos, that has left a like, that has hit me with a comment. It's all appreciated. When we started season 2, when I put out that first breakdown, the channel had 1,200 subscribers. We are currently at 4,300 as of this recording. So we've added 3,000, nearly 4x'd in the last month. And I'm blown away. So I just wanted to say thank you. My ultimate stretch goal that I feel even greedy for putting out into the universe would be to hit 5K this season with this last breakdown. So if you're on the fence, you're one of those people that's a bit stingy with the subscribe. I get it. I'm one of those people too. And you're just waiting to see which way the wind blows. Consider me a gust of wind. Join us. We're going to have to wait for more Vox Machina, but we're going to have Critical Role Campaign 3 to cover. We release content on that every week. And I plan on putting out some more Critical Role breakdown type videos in the meantime as well. Potentially talking about certain characters or places or events in Exandria's history. I have all sorts of ideas and I'm still trying to nail it down. But if you have anything in particular that you would love to see a video on, definitely let me know in the comments, because I am looking for suggestions as well. In addition to that, we will cover other nerdy stuff. Like I said, we're doing The Last of Us currently. We will be talking about Mandalorian Season 3, and we talk a fair share of Marvel stuff. So if any of that interests you, come hang out with us for the next year while we wait for Season 3. And also, we do have a Discord. I know a lot of you have joined that for these watch parties. But the Discord is more than that. We, like I said, talk about Critical Role Campaign 3 every week. We've got a little channel in there where we live chat during the episodes, and it's always a lot of fun. So would love to have you be a part of the community. Other than that, let me give another special shout out to everyone that has given a super thanks comment and has helped support the channel over the past month. It's completely blown me away. I know the words really appreciate it have lost all meaning coming from my mouth, but I really do appreciate it. And special shout out to Eisen, who once again has left not one, but 2 super thanks comments since the last video. Eisen, thank you so much, man. And finally, y'all, let me give the spoiler warning for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. This breakdown could spoil future moments in the show, but if I ever go into super spoiler territory, I will give a threat level midnight symbol warning. And if you don't want to know, just mute while that's on the screen. Alrighty, y'all, to kick things off, we have this opening dream sequence. And if you thought that I talked a lot about the opening sequence in last week's breakdown, this opening sequence has far, far more. Now, we're going to just hit these things in no particular order, but let's begin with the painting that we see in the background. This painting is the very same one that the crew came across in Season 1 in General Krieg, aka Brimscythe's office. Grog was feeling some type of way about this. And I pointed this out in Season 1, but a fun little Easter egg about this painting is that it is signed by the artist Jameson, who was actually an artist from the original campaign, and one that Scanlan actually later commissions to do a self-portrait. It'll be interesting to see if we ever get that moment in the show. Next up, we've got these books on the floor here, and there's also just a bunch of books on bookshelves in this shot. So 2 of these could potentially be the Tome of Isolation, or perhaps the Tome of Leadership and Influence. both books that Scanlan had at least at some point during the original campaign. All right, next up, we have a few items lined up together here, starting with Scanlan's classic loot. Next to that appears to be a barrel of sex toys. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. And then next to that, we have these winged boots, which I'm going to assume are the boots of haste, which were a hotly contested item in the original campaign, at least between the twins, but they were ultimately Vax's boots. Next up, we've got this dragon tooth on the pedestal, and specifically, this is one of Brimsice's teeth that Grog can be seen looting in Season 1. And finally, at least in this first shot, we have this painting of Vox Machina, which was also potentially commissioned by Jameson, although his artist tag is not present. But we have a few things to talk about here. First of all, we have Grog, Scanlan, and Pike all wearing their fancy outfits that we could see in Season 1, Episode 3, The Feast of Realms. Then we have Vex, who appears to be wearing at least something similar to what Laura wore in one of the one-shots during Campaign 1. And to a lesser extent, you could make the same claim for Percy. It's not as close, but it could be what they were going for. And then Vax is the Count of Monte Cristo. My man is rocking the musketeer facial hair here. And finally, Keyleth. Now, you may or may not have noticed, but Keyleth looks basically the same except for the hair, and I will touch on that in a second. But everyone else has been aged up, at least somewhat. And this is a little bit of an Easter egg toward the fact that, one, she's a half-elf, but two, as a druid, she will ultimately reach a level of power where she ages far, far slower than everyone else. So I liked that that was, represented in this album. One thing I'm going to say now, and it's threat level midnight, so dance on out of here real quick. Obviously, we have Vax in this painting, which if you've seen the original campaign, in this flash forward, as it were, with everyone being aged up as they are, clearly Vax would not be in this photo. So this was kind of a bittersweet thing to see. I'm sad the world got robbed of Musketeer Vax. Threat level midnight gone. Two other quick things I wanted to touch on with this painting is we have, not confirmed, but at least it looks like Vax and Keyleth and Vex and Percy could be holding hands, but it's very subtle and kind of intentionally not fully explicitly out there, but nice touch. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was Keyleth's hair. She's rocking the short the pixie cut. This is a haircut she actually rocks in the campaign later. I mean, obviously it's a D&D imagination campaign, so we never see exactly what her hair looks like, but she rocks a shorter cut. And I'm going to show you a quick clip, cut quickly as to not give unnecessary spoilers away.
Before we do that, if everyone's going to bed, back in your room, I plunk down a bottle of whatever, and I take out Whisper. Have a seat.
Okay.
And I take Whisper, and I just start gently cutting away burnt edges of hair on your already shorter hair, so that the ends are clean.
Aww. Do you like it shorter?
I like you. And I see you doubting yourself. I see it, Kiki. I've no doubts in you. I've known you for a long time now. And I have seen the strength in you growing. And I'm a fan. You're gonna make a great leader someday.
Hair look okay.
Are you kidding me?
Does the short thing that kind of work? Does it work with my bone structure? Is the antlers aren't overpowering it, right? The length kind of balanced out this,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No,
You'll
I don't
regret
want
it.
bangs. No bangs.
Alrighty, y'all, we're not even halfway done with stuff in this scene. But let's move on to this next shot. And as you can see, there's a lot in this one as well. Let's start off with this chest in the background that is on display on this podium, similar to the Dragon Tooth. Now, there are no explicit chest items from the original campaign. Like, there's no, chest of holding or like mimic that they slayed that they kept a hold of or anything like that. So it's entirely possible that this is just some generic treasure chest from loot at some point in Scanlan's life. But it does look pretty similar to the chest that they get in season 1 containing the deed to Greyskull Keep. Now in season 1, that chest is like pretty clearly golden, and in this shot, it's not lit very well, but it does appear to be brown more than gold. But it's also been, decades upon decades, so maybe it is the same one, and it's just seen some wear and tear. Okay, next let's talk about this item in the glass case on the podium on the left here, and there's another angle of it that we can see here. I believe this to be the helmet that Grog actually got commissioned from a hat shop in campaign 1.
Spikes, let me see what I can do. And she runs off down the way, gets into a back room, and you start hearing things kind of ding, something falls over. Ah, shit! Eventually she comes out. This is less of a hat and more of a half helmet, but maybe it'll do. And she pulls forth what looks like this very wide metal brim, almost in a Swiss shape to a point to the front. Yeah, it looks kind of like a conquistador's helmet, but it's only the front. So it's almost like a rhinoceros horn that sticks up at the front point.
Oh my god.
The rest of it just buckles to the back of the head. So it's just a giant metallic groove to the front.
I'll take it. I don't even care if it fits.
Oh, that's what I like to hear.
Okay, next let's take a look at this more zoomed in shot to try and identify everything we've got here. First of all, we've got this framed wanted poster, which is the same one from season 1 that kind of got the entire story rolling. Next to that, we have a picture of Greyskull Keep. Next to that is either two things, in my opinion. It's either the deed to Greyskull Keep that was in the chest we were just talking about, or it could be a diploma, because it does kind of look like a college diploma. So it could either be Scanlan's, but more likely Kaylee's diploma from her bard school, the White Duke. Now, below that, we have what appears to be a bunch of sex toys. We have the beads of love, and then we have kind of the whip that we saw in Scanlan's flashback. Then on the mantle there, from left to right, we've got the troll dick, which we've seen a couple of times now. Then there in the middle, I believe this is one of Scanlan's instruments, either his flute or his sham. We do see him play these in season 1, and it's not purple, but who's to say he just didn't get a purple one? Purple is one of Scanlan's iconic colors, so it could very much just be that still, but not, the same one we saw in season 1. Another guess, though, is it maybe could be his hand cone, which is an item he had in the original campaign, but it really looks a lot like a flute or a sham, so that's my best guess. And then next to that, we have a statue of Pike, which is something that Scanlan had made, and we didn't get to see him make it in the original campaign because this is something that happened before they started streaming on Twitch. But check this out.
We don't want to tell anybody.
I would accept a small statue of Pike that I can hold near my breast.
I don't want to see
Didn't
that.
you have one
Would
made
they
in
ask?
game?
I did have
That
one
was
made
one
in game,
you
but
made, and that's
Music?
what saved my
Oh,
life.
you know what? No,
That's right,
I made
it
two.
did.
No,
I
I'm
made
bard.
two.
You made
I'm saying.
two?
I made one of me that I gave to you, and one of
Is
you
it
that I
overwhelming
keep
having
with me.
8,000 people
The
watching?
cover
Do?
is
No.
It's not overwhelming, it's really cool.
We do this.
I know.
Yeah, this
yeah,
is
it's
kind
been
of.
loyalty between
does?
Tiberius and Keyleth.
It's good to know there's other people out there that have any interest in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I grew up an indoor kid.
You will
I'm
save
not quite sure if
Alrighty, and finally in this scene, we have a framed picture of a chair. And this is actually a reference to something in Campaign 2 and has nothing to do with Vox Machina or any relevance to Campaign 1 whatsoever, but it's still worth including, trust me. And there's no spoilers here, so you're fine, but it's going to be better to show you rather than tell you.
the room is tossed. Not like you remember. There's a pile of broken table shards in the far right corner. There's additional shattered glass all over the floor here. There's an iron chest roughly 3 feet long by a foot wide that sits in the far left corner. A single chair holds the center of the room, and that's what remains inside.
Lighting it up in here.
Okay.
Does it look like there was a struggle, like bodies being a struggle in here, or it's been turned by someone looking for
Make
something?
an investigation
Okay.
check.
21.
It looks like there was definitely a struggle in here.
Okay.
Like, looking at the walls, looks like there were probably like blade scrapes across bits of stone. A lot of the furniture in here has been destroyed as part of that from heavy impacts. But the center chair seems perfect.
You know what that makes me think of? That's weird.
Yeah,
I mean, did you want to finish that? Or
I figured, I figured you would know, because I'm just guessing.
no? I mean, I have an idea. I have my opinion. I'm just curious.
Well,
of
what's your
yours.
opinion?
What is it?
Someone was interrogated.
That's way better than mine, never mind.
What was yours?
I was just thinking that, like, maybe there was an invisible person tied to the chair.
Yeah, that's way worse. No, yours is much better.
I go up and can I touch and see if there's an invisible person in the chair?
Yeah, there was not an
I
invisible.
really appreciate that. I was a little spooked.
You should sit in the chair.
That's the Mighty Nine special.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit in the chair
All right, you
and
sit down
see
in
what
the
I
chair.
see. What does it look like from the chair?
It looks like the room.
Programming it.
Tearing me apart.
Based on your investigation check, you gather that the chair was probably placed here after this, whatever transpired in this room.
I think we should just try and lock everything up and maybe break the chair.
Why should we break the chair?
Can I actually do a little pass on the chair and see if I see any signs that someone's been tied to it, someone's been questioned,
Why was it locked from the
Make an
outside?
investigation check.
things that Bo would know that people would do in her
Make an
realm?
investigation check.
13.
13. It's a chair that was probably placed here after this attack.
We already knew that.
And I mean, I'll say based on the chair's placement, the chest, and the fact that it was locked when you left, people had to have come back in and back out since this attack happened. Probably whoever locked this chest, put this chair here, and then locked the room as they left.
Quickly.
Ford?
You didn't see anything when you sat in the chair, right?
I just saw the room.
Let's have this conversation elsewhere. This place is creeping me out.
Was there anything under the chair? On the other side of the chair?
Appears to be a chair.
No, nothing under the chair. No.
Why the chair? Why in the middle of the room? Why lock it?
Well, the chair is facing the chest, correct? Is what you said? I mean, look at the amount of time that we've all lost staring in the dodecahedron.
Is there anything in my time of torture and offal that would tell me what this chair is?
Yes. It's a chair. It's a standard chair.
No, I don't mean like a magic chair. I mean set up in the room with the mess around it.
Correct. No. You gather that whoever came down here last brought the chair with them to probably lock their things
Stand guard.
and leave it here and then lock the basement behind them, not expecting anyone to make their way in.
The chair is the key to everything. It's the thread that holds it all together.
Why the chair, though?
Can you please tell us about the chair? It's just a chair.
It's a
In the center of the
chair.
room.
It's in a single piece, unlike the other furniture in the chamber it's around.
Yeah.
It was representative, and it was a clue that somebody had entered and placed it after it was ransacked.
Let me ask you a question that somebody might not have thought of yet. How many legs on this chair?
There's got to be something about this chair.
4. Like a chair.
Okay. I can picture it.
Not
Go
like
on.
a table.
Did it have arms?
Yeah, what was the arm situation?
Was it like
Full back, half back?
Yeah. Did it have like leather, like one of those fabric embroidered cushions, or was
Where you tie the cushion to the little slits in the
how
chair?
you are. You just
Yeah.
have to say that you're fine.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
yeah,
really
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
You just can't get into it because they would never understand.
No, it was a chair.
Did anybody ask if there was a rug under the chair?
It was just a chair.
Fuck. Was there a rug?
Because maybe it wasn't a magic chair, it was a magic rug under the chair.
And the chair was there.
But perhaps the chair was acting like
It was
Thor's
the-
hammer,
yes.
holding down the rug
Oh my god.
from getting up.
What was the chair?
You don't want to know about the chair.
I'm sorry.
Could be a boat, could be furniture. It's about that long. And it's jagged on each end. Oh my god, it's the chair.
All right, next up, we've got the book that the older Scanlan is reading called The Legend of Scanlan Shorthalt, in parentheses, and Vox Machina. And first of all, there is the Vox Machina logo on the front, but also the book itself is an allusion to a book Scanlan actually writes in the original campaign titled In the Belly of Dragons, which you'll now understand what that means. The Legend of Scanlan Shorthalt and Vox Machina. So in both cases, he positions himself as the true subject, with Vox Machina being an afterthought. Now, also in this scene, the two kids are once again played by Sam's real-life kids, bringing their total number of roles this season to like half a dozen, I think, even more if you count season 1. But also we get a shot of some of the text of this book. Now, the text here is written in a cipher that dates back to before this show even existed. One of the first things Critical Role did was release a tweet that was in this ciphered language. And once it was cracked, it read, "Help us animate Vox Machina." So I can't take credit for spending the time to actually translate this here. That goes to Reddit and Twitter. I don't know who did it first, so sorry for not giving explicit credit to whoever first translated this. But it does come out to be Carrick's letter, which if you've watched all of my breakdowns this season, you will know that we already briefly spoke about Carrick's letter in the Passed Through Fire episode, and I included the clip from the original campaign, which if you didn't see that, I would highly recommend going back and watching because it is a great moment. But since we already talked about it, I won't talk about it more now. Alrighty, we just have one more thing to talk about in this opening sequence, and then we can move on to the next scene. And we're already 20 minutes deep in this breakdown. But that is this older Scanlan talking about leading Vox Machina through the minds of Craghammer. And this is a reference to how Critical Role began. The first ever Twitch stream was Vox Machina going to Craghammer. So this was just a nice little callback. Okay, so dream sequence done. We have now half of Vox Machina, attached or inside a dragon, and half getting left behind. So let me briefly kind of overview some differences between the original campaign, and then we'll probably get into more specifics when we get to each moment. So in the original campaign, this same situation happened where Grog, Scanlan, and Vax were kind of getting flown away with Umbrasyl. So Vox Machina tries to follow them. And in the show, we have Keyleth wild shaping into an eagle, carrying Percy and Pike and Vex on her broom. In the campaign, there actually just were some eagles that were kind of, part of this fight against Umbrasyl. So Keyleth doesn't turn into an eagle, but Pike and Percy still get on an eagle and Vex gets on the broom. Meanwhile, Keyleth has what's called a gate stone, which is an item that Vox Machina had, where you can basically teleport between two gate stones, and Vax had the other one. But you have to concentrate for a minute for it to activate. So she says, I'm going to sit back here and wait for this stone to activate so I can teleport to Vax and help them out. Now, granted, a minute doesn't sound like a long time, but in D&D rules, each round of combat is 6 seconds long, and they are in combat right now with Umbrasyl. So a minute translates to 10 rounds, which is actually quite a long time. But she still decided that, this is probably the best idea. So I'm going to sit back here and do this while the rest chase them. So now that you kind of have that groundwork for those changes, let's get into some more specifics on what happens. One of the first things we see that I want to call attention to is Grog, hanging on for his life and actually making some attacks with his new blood axe. And I just thought this was a nice point of order to show how much stronger Grog is, not only with the blood axe weapon upgrade, but with these Titanstone knuckles as well. If you'll recall in the earlier fight with Umbrasyl, Grog could not even pierce through Umbrasyl's scaled armor until he went absolutely berserk with Craven Edge. But now, not under Craven Edge's possession, if you will, he is able to strike Umbrasyl. So it's kind of a subtle, representation of his power increase, but it is there nonetheless. Also, we have Grog, getting spit acid upon from Umbrasyl, which...
Wow! If I had a nickel for every time
Grog was doused in acid,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Okay, so for this next free-falling sequence, there are changes from the campaign, so bear with me as I kind of parse through all of this. So in the original campaign, if you recall from the clips I showed in earlier breakdowns, when Scanlan and Vax teleport inside Umbrasyl, they are not together. They end up in separate parts of Umbrasyl's body. So when they exit Umbrasyl's body, they are still not together. So, in the show, we have Vax and Scanlan together on Scanlan's hand, but in the campaign, it was just Scanlan, and he was presented with this Sophie's choice. Do you try to help Grog, who's in freefall, or do you try to help Vax, who's in freefall?
Wow.
This didn't go well.
Great. Hoping you could hold on for a minute.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna drop Bigby's. Because 60 feet is not plummeting speed. I can't catch up to them as they fall.
Right now you could catch up to one of them.
All right. Because Grog is over me, right?
Yeah, Grog is in an arc, so you would have to you'd kind of meet him as you fall.
I'll try to catch him then.
Okay, so you clutch onto Bigby's hand and move as he plummets.
Shit! Wait.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Scanlan?
Shit. Vax is below me though.
Yeah.
There's other
One
options.
of them, so it's just a Sophie's choice.
It's a Sophie's choice.
Yeah, but who's on lower points?
Yeah, I would go for Grog if he's above me with the hand. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna drop Bigby's hand and polymorph Grog into an eagle.
Okay. So, as you look over at Scanlan, that big look of relief and thank you, he gives you a cursory look as the hand vanishes.
What?
I'm holding on to him.
He grabs you real fast, and suddenly, you have feathers! What the shit? And strangely, still have a beard.
Giant eagle.
Becomes smarter. As giant eagles have an intelligence of 8.
Wait, come up with a plan.
It's a new day, baby.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, that takes care of Grog. Vax is just going to sprout his wings like he did in the show, and he'll be fine too. Well, not exactly. And bear with me here. I'll try to keep this, as brief as possible. But in the original campaign, when this Umbrasyl fight is happening, Vax had not yet been to the temple and gone into the pool of blood and had his little moment with the Raven Queen. A few different timeline of events have been shifted for the show versus the campaign, which we've talked about a few times, and that's one of them. And that moment with the Raven Queen is kind of Vax coming to accept his new role, understand the deal that he made and the weight that actually carries. And because of that, a weight is lifted from his shoulders. And, we see that in the show. And that all encapsulated is what awakens his vestige of divergence, the Deathwalker's Ward, which, again, the Deathwalker's Ward has different stages, dormant, awakened, and exalted. And the exalted form is what has the wings. So in the show, the Deathwalker's Ward awakens, he has the wings, we're all good. In the campaign, since he hadn't had that moment with the Raven Queen yet, his Deathwalker's Ward is not awakened, therefore no wings. All that to say, and I'll show you the clip of the original campaign so you can see what happens there. But this is a change that I think makes perfect sense for the show. This moment is really awesome and well served for the wings coming out. And it makes sense because he's had that meeting with the Raven Queen in the show. So it's not even really a change. It's just suiting the timeline of events that they've created, if that makes sense. So fully on board with this. I think it makes an even cooler moment than the moment the wings came out in the campaign, which I'll show you that as well. But yeah, just wanted to get everybody on the same page.
You're now falling backward.
I'd like to take a chance to say here that when I went into this dragon, I was lost and a wanderer. And as I am shot out its side, I come forth the paladin of the Raven Queen. I have multi-class and leveled up. And the last thing I'm thinking as I shoot out this hole in its side is, if you have any wings to lend me, now is the time.
Okay. As you emerge from the body of Umbrasil, there is a streak of shadow that scatters into a burst of darkened raven feathers that kind of fill the air around you. You still plummet, but as a nature of your prayer in that brief moment of understanding, it appears there is some reaction. That'll be that element there. As the eagle swoops underneath you, you reach out. You don't even see it. You're just looking up into the sky as you plummet. The trail of feathers going past as you concentrate on the acceptance you've made to the Raven Queen and the understanding that perhaps if there is a chance to survive, let it be through this leap of faith you've taken in the direction of an entity that you've been so fearful of and scoffed at since she came to you in your dreams. A moment you see the feathers begin to trail off and subside from beneath your cloak, and a voice whispers in your ear and says, "Left." Without thinking, your hand reaches out, without even seeing, and you just grab the edge of Scanlan's cloak.
Oh no!
As you're dragged behind, you come behind.
It's worth it!
Breathe. As the eagle swoops up, you can feel the heartbeat, the blood flowing in the back of your head, and your ears are just hot. Oof, 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 as you just slowly reach over and grab the back of the eagle. Is this Keyleth? You don't know. All you know is Scanlan swooped in, and in this moment of need, seemingly, a prayer was answered.
So as you can see, the moment is still very true to what the show gave us. Vax does indeed reach out to the Raven Queen for help, and she does answer his prayer, just in a different way given the circumstances that led up to it. But now that we've all got that covered, let's actually talk about the transformation in the show. Again, love this change. But so we have Vax reaching out, and because he's already made his peace with the Raven Queen, the Deathwalker's ward is exalted and the wings come out. And I just love the imagery here where they have him plummeting in the sky, transitioning to him, plummeting back within that blood pool. And then the threads of fate kind of all, burst out of Vax. And in the background, the Raven Queen's mask is visible for just a second or two before it switches back to reality and the wings burst out. And my favorite detail of this whole sequence is that we get the Raven flying by Vax as he's kind of entering this transformation. And this is the very same Raven from the intro that explodes into the threads of fate that connect all of Vox Machina. Okay, so all that leaves us with to cover now is Grog, and now he plummets like a meteor, and I'm using that word very intentionally, to the ground and gets pretty messed up. I think this serves dual purposes. One being that it kind of takes Grog out of commission, which sets up events later in this episode and kind of paves the way for Scanlan to have the focus during the Umbrasil fight. But also this meteor moment is inspired by what happened in the original campaign. It's just that it wasn't Grog, it was Keyleth.
Keyleth, you finish your concentration on the stone. Suddenly, you step through what seems like being pushed through a tunnel of blue light and energy. And for a moment, all you see before you is Vax's face, his tiny little raven-sized face.
So cute. Yeah.
As you guys watch, Keyleth apparate right in front of Vax. Oh, and go speeding past you. Oh my God. As she's now plummeting from the air,
Wait,
having summoned to your
I'm
side.
technically an earth elemental still.
into air.
She bammed
Earth
next to
elemental.
him, and then.
Still Earth Elemental?
She's
Yeah.
not falling. Or, wait, she is
So
falling?
yeah, so you see Keyleth as a giant boulder that appears at the side. You have to dodge out of the way, woof, as this giant rock being out of the corner of your eye just appears before you. However, she just sinks straight past you. From at the same, you're flying as low as you can. You're going terminal velocity, and there is this like this rock entity plummeting at the same rate.
A meteor.
So.
You know, it's a good idea when he was still in the dragon.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was. So at about 200 feet up, you continue to plummet.
Oh God. 200 feet?
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right. You're not doing anything else?
Huh?
You're gonna take the fall. You're not quite sure where you'll land. You just see treetops and rocks.
All bad things.
Yeah, but
But what happens? It's the worst that's gonna happen.
I would just hit 0 hit points as an earth elemental and
Unless
go
you go
back to Keyleth.
way
And then every
below.
other rest of the damage would carry over.
Right,
Right.
but at
So you're
200
guessing.
feet
You're guessing.
isn't eagle? That's survival.
It's 20d6.
20d6.
You'll be fine. What's that?
It's up to you. Do you want to take
60 points.
It's 60
Yeah,
It's 60
it's
points.
roughly 60 points, which and I've got 67 left as this earth elemental.
it? All right, so you're gonna take it.
Plus hers.
So as you,
I'm
roll-
hang on, wait.
It's gonna look so good.
Wait. If I want to do this, I'm gonna do it right.
All right, what are you doing?
I'm gonna ball up like a cannonball and light up my hands that I keep forgetting because I didn't know I could do them in elemental form, by the way.
Yes, you
Thought
can.
it was only beast form. And I'm gonna light myself on fire and go meteor.
All right, you guys watch as the earth elemental curls up, forms this streak of flame and smoke behind, and now a plummeting Keyleth meteor goes slamming into the base of the mountain just past you as you pull up from actually impacting at terminal velocity.
I know, trying to leave an impression.
You did.
Keyleth, you suffer 76 points of bludgeoning damage upon
Of Jor-El
impact.
damage.
Okay, now you're pretty much caught up on the differences between these sequences. Let's pick back up with the show where we have the now winged Vax scooping up Scanlan and returning to the rest of the party, where, Keyleth thinks he's beautiful, but Vex is a bit jealous of the wings. And this is a great opportunity to show you the original wing moment from the campaign, along with Vex's reaction there.
Do you trust me? As soon as you look down, you feel a thrust as he pushes you off the cliff. At that moment, you suddenly, instinctively, look up and from outside the back of the armor,
What?
these giant black raven wings
Wait,
spill
so
out
you
from
could
the
have flown
sides.
when you came out of the dragon?
Only if I knew how to work it.
You get the sense that this feature to the armor was only recently.
Oh, shit! Shit! Get it, Archangel.
Go from falling to swooping over the forest on the outside of
What
White
the
Stone.
What? He can fly!
After
He can fucking fly!
after doing that, I double back and I fly up that same cliff.
He's alive. Let it go.
And then
I walk up and I.
Where were you? What the fuck were you? Oh,
Flying
you're a
fuck, you flying fuck!
I forgot you were a rogue. Yeah.
Ugh. I mean, congratulations, it's really cool.
That broom is really cool that you
If I
stole.
didn't fucking fall off it, your fucking wings. Jesus. I walk away.
I follow her, and I stop her, and I give her a hug, and I say, I love you. I love you.
Now with Vox Machina all reunited, they are kind of taking a second to reassess, and there's a couple things I want to talk about here. First and foremost, though, that this same thing happened in the campaign, and Umbrasyl got away to Gas Shadow Mountain and had the chance to rest, which we see Umbrasyl healing in the show, which is just what happened in the campaign, because they stopped and waited before immediately chasing him. And in the case of the original campaign, they took what's called a short rest. That enabled Umbrasyl to rest as well. So when they fought him again, he was, basically back to 100%. But also during this time, we get Percy, keeping an eye on Umbrasyl through his gun's scope, which is something he would do in the original campaign as well.
I pull out bad news and I'm just going to try and use the scope to trail.
Okay.
And then we also get, Vax saying, I know we all walk away at different times, which is a reference I've spoken on at numerous points throughout both seasons. So I won't cover it again here. But, in this very season, there was an episode titled Those Who Walk Away. So a nice little additional shout out there. But finally in this scene, we have Vax saying this most egregious of lies.
That's a 2, but I'm going to use luck. I'm going to use luck on that roll. Okay, and I'm going to use luck. I'm going to use luck. Too late for luck? F it, I'm going to use my last luck of the day. Oh, shit.
Ridiculous.
Right now.
Using luck right now?
This is ridiculous.
Fucking Muppet babies
To
right
get my
now.
second roll, I have luck left. I'm going to burn a luck. Wait, I want to use my last luck to make him roll again. I'll use luck. Use my last luck. But I will use luck if I want to use luck.
Okay.
I have luck.
Oh my god.
I got 1 luck left.
Yeah, it's true.
20.
Did you really do that?
I rolled a 1, but I have lots of luck left. And now I'm fine.
Proficient
With an
with
improvised
wooden
weapon.
sword, yeah.
Oh dear, I'm gonna use luck. 14. Wait. I'm gonna use luck.
Oh, jeez.
No, didn't.
You don't.
I'm gonna use luck because that blew. And that's a natural 20.
Oh!
Use my last luck. The sleep cycle. Natural 20.
Okay.
Oh!
And you have my axe.
As he's doing this, I'm
I'm
like,
gonna use
"I win."
luck. I'm using my luck.
Call for a win.
Natural 20 with luck.
Yeah. There.
Natural 20 plus 8. So
Plus
20.
Constitution to 20.
Jesus. Well, I used luck to get there.
Okay, gotcha.
That montage could have been like 30 hours long, by the way. But something Vax does not lie about in this scene is the fact that he is fast as hell. Now, in the show, it's because the Deathwalker's ward has made him really fast. But in the original campaign, he had the Boots of Haste, which I've mentioned, a bit earlier in this breakdown. And that combined with his wings and the hasted action and just his full capabilities meant Vax could go very, very far in one round. And they even did the math to back this up. But yeah, that evens out to about like 55 to 60-ish miles per hour. So yeah, little speed demon. And because of this, in the original campaign as well, Vax decided to go ahead and scout things out first before the rest of the party came in. But before he goes, Keela stops him, and she doesn't quite have the confidence to say what she really wants to, but she reminds him that the safe word is Chenga, which this also came up in season 1, and this is a reference to the cast's actual safe word, Jenga, but they can't use that for copyright reasons.
And we should have some sort of I know it's a few days off, but we should have some sort of safe word, some sort of attack word.
Well, also, we're not hired to
Grog,
kill
any
the
suggestions?
Jenga.
Jenga. Great.
Jenga.
Jenga it is.
So as Vax ventures his way in, we get this shot of the lair, and this skull here, I believe, could be an illithid skull. It could honestly be any number of things, but it kind of resembled one to me, so I wanted to point it out. But also in here, we get Kamal Jori's head on a spike, and this was a gut punch. If you didn't watch my earlier breakdowns this season, then you may not know that in the original campaign, Kamal Jori never even died. So that stung enough, but then to get the reminder of it here was just vicious, man. It just goes to show how absolutely ruthless Umbrasyl is. And as Vax continues, he stumbles into the invisible Umbrasyl, which he's such a menace, man. They did such a good job of making this encounter like genuinely terrifying. And yeah, this happened in the campaign.
Around the entire wall. Further. Past that pool of acid even.
Has it been a minute yet?
Further corner.
I know, right?
About half a minute. Okay, as you come around this corner, being as careful as you can, looking around you.
Oh shit.
Your shoulder hits something, you
Stab.
look. Roll initiative.
What? You... it's Fakakta.
14.
Well, I'm gonna call it 14. I mean,
That's
it's
a
mostly
14.
14.
Yeah, that's a
I'm gonna
14.
take it, and that means 19.
All right. So, you have just bumped into the currently invisible form of Umbrasyl lying in wait in the far corner of the cavern. That would be a 20 initiative on Umbrasyl.
Fuck you.
How long has it been?
18 plus 2. At this travel pace, it's been about 45 seconds or so. So then... All right, so... you hear Chinga out of the back of the earring.
So we now have Vax 1v1 against a dragon, and it's taking everything in him just to survive. We cut back to the rest of the party, and Keyleth is wondering, Vex, can you feel what's going on with your brother? And she cannot, because the tie between them had been severed by the Matron of Ravens earlier this season. And this tie between them is beyond just normal twin shenanigans. They had a somewhat supernatural bond, you could call it, that we even got to witness back in season 1 when she could clearly sense when he was in danger. So they decide they need to go check on him. But meanwhile, Grog is still recovering from his fall. So Pike says, I'll stay with Grog, you guys go. And Scanlan comments, wait, we're splitting the party? Which, if you've never played D&D, splitting the party is kind of an unwritten rule of just something you never do, because you never know what's going to happen, and if all of you aren't together, it could be deadly. So fun little reference there. And from here we head into the battle with Umbrasyl, and this is a great battle. There's a lot of cool things that happen, but most of the abilities and stuff we've commented on one point or another this season, so there's only a couple of things I want to touch on. Which most importantly is layer actions. Now, layer actions are something that, like, quote unquote boss entities in D&D may have. In this case, a dragon, but it doesn't have to be a dragon. It could be any type of, again, really powerful enemy. If they are on their home turf, let's call it, they will have special bonuses or special abilities that they have access to. And in this case, we see Umbrasyl do something just like that. He kind of spreads his wings and sends out this pulse, and then all of a sudden these stalactites and stalagmites all around Vox Machina start to glow and then explode. So I thought that was a really cool representation of that. Also, another cool moment is when he goes invisible and is, attacking left and right. He slashes Pike, and you actually can't see Umbrasyl, but clearly she gets smashed, and the stalagmite in the background is cleaved in 3 from where his claws passed through it. So I thought that was a really cool detail. All right, a couple other quick things. And one is just the general tempo of this fight. Like you saw in the clip I shared a minute ago, Umbrasyl was invisible and Vax bumped into him. The rest of Vox Machina does arrive, but they really struggle with him as they do in the show. They're pretty much up against the wall for the entire encounter. And it wasn't until Vox Machina was able to get him to be visible again in the original campaign that the tide really turned in their favor. So I liked that the feel of this fight felt very true to the original. And also on the invisibility, in the show, we have Vex being the one to kind of spot Umbrasyl, which I've touched on this in the earlier episode when they trapped Umbrasyl outside of Westrin. But Vex, due to her ranger abilities, would be much more likely to be able to find an invisible creature. So I just enjoyed that they are showcasing that once again. Also during this battle, we have this brief intermission phase where Vox Machina is kind of regrouping in this lower chamber, and Umbrasyl finds them using Mythcarver's location services to find his iPhone. And I just thought this was a really cool showcase of that mechanic. And also during this brief conversation, Vox Machina, specifically Vax, is talking about how fate is real, and how, all of these things that are happening to them are for a reason, which I think is just a really cool way to narratively tie this story together. Because, in a D&D campaign, or really in any story, it's a strung together series of events that, maybe in some cases are less plausible than other, very main character syndrome, if you will, but that's just the nature of all stories. And it's just cool that this one has a built-in explanation for that, because Vax is fate touched, like these events congregate around him. So while I don't think it's necessary, it's really nice to kind of have a bow on the cohesiveness for why these things are happening to them. But even with all that being the case, I love this moment between Scanlan and Vax where Scanlan says that, you know what, she doesn't control my destiny. And Vax says, no, you do. Saying that even though all of those things are true, it's still up to us to pilot our own destinies. Okay, just a final couple of things before we move on to the killing blow of this encounter. And one is when Umbrasyl calls Pike hardly a snack. This is a callback to earlier in the season when the Slayer's take, specifically Kashaw, said something similar about, you know, which one is Osisa gonna eat first? And they're like, probably the little one. She's just an appetizer. But then Keyleth, I just wanted to touch on her briefly in this encounter. She's out here throwing out powerful spell after powerful spell. And of course, she goes into a fire elemental once again. And the fire elemental theme is so good. And just shout out to Neela Cree and everybody that worked on any aspect of the music this season. It was phenomenal. But Keyleth, at the end of the encounter, when she is exhausted, wiped out, probably running out of spell slots, she just manages to use a vine to grasp Grog and fling him out of the way. Specifically, grasping vines is a spell in D&D, and it was one of Keyleth's mainstays. Okay, so now on to the end of this fight. We get this awesome moment with Scanlan, and this is slightly different from the campaign, because in the campaign, Grog is actually the one to get the killing blow, but we just had this big Grog moment in the kill box a couple episodes prior, and Grog is the one that got the killing blow on Brimscythe in season 1. So I'm totally for this change. I think it helps really punctuate kind of the Scanlan miniature story arc that they've been having in the last 2 episodes, and to, you know, a bit of a lesser extent, his story arc throughout this whole season, but that's obviously not done yet. That will progress into next season and beyond potentially. But anyway, I thought this was a great exclamation point, and a lot of details I want to talk about here. First of all, I love how Mythcarver resizes to fit its wielder, which is something I spoke about in earlier episodes. But also just this strike and the way he sings with it, and almost like a tuning fork, it enhances the blow and does this Kamehameha to defeat Umbrasyl. Like I mentioned in an earlier breakdown, Mythcarver didn't really get utilized in the original campaign all that often because Scanlan wasn't, you know, on the front lines striking with a sword in most cases. So the fact that they're just, you know, taking this opportunity to really showcase its strength here is just, one, awesome to see. But 2, it's still really nice that they included the musical aspect of it, because in the lore behind Mythcarver, it was forged in part by a blacksmith, but also in part by like this legendary bard who like sang during its forging to like imbue it with more power. So I just love that that's being showcased, what with singing making it even more powerful while it's being used. And also, it's hard to say like if they're even going to make Mythcarver, you know, exactly the same as in the campaign, as far as it being like dormant, then awakened, then exalted, similar to the Deathwalker's Ward. I'm not sure if we'll get that same kind of evolution. So it's hard to say like what state the show's Mythcarver is in. But part of what it did in the original campaign was like extra force damage, or once it was truly fully exalted, you could get a basically super attack with it, which in terms of D&D was 4 attacks at once. So that might be kind of what we're seeing here, just with the pure carnage that he wreaks in one blow. In any case, it's not really an important distinction. This was obviously just a really cool moment. Okay, now I want to talk a little threat level Midnight, and just an extended warning, because I know some people probably still just want to know what I'm talking about, even if they haven't seen the campaign. But in this case in particular, I'm talking about speculative future things. So it has nothing to do with this current episode or even this season. So I would again recommend, if you haven't seen the campaign, to mute until this is done, because these are events that we'll probably see next season. Anyway, 2 things, y'all. So 1, when Scanlan is making this dive bomb attack on Umbrasyl, that shot is actually from the trailer. And when I saw the trailer, I assumed that this was Scanlan diving off the balcony attacking the Rakshasa after it attacks Vax. Now, the season's over, obviously, and we don't get that moment, but I'm still holding out hope that we will get that in season 4. But I was just curious if anybody else that saw the trailer thought that that was the same thing as me. Let me know down in the comments. But then other than that, after this Umbrasyl fight, they kind of bait us with Scanlan being dead, and I thought this was going to just launch into the Bard's Lament early. Obviously, I didn't really have long enough to fully process that thought because, he reveals that he's fine. But I was worried that they were going to do it because they haven't had the appropriate setup for it yet. Obviously, it didn't happen, so there's not really much more to say on it, but again, was curious if anybody else thought that they were going to head to launch into that. All right, now on to everyone's favorite thing, the treasure. So Vox Machina stumbles upon Umbrasyl's hoard, and there are tens of thousands of gold pieces here. Now, they don't really cover this in the show. Maybe they will next season, but this is clearly the gold that has been plundered from Western. So in the campaign, Vox Machina takes their fair share, but leaves the rest to Western for its, rebuild. So a couple things here I want to point out. One, in this shot, there is a book, and earlier in the beginning of this episode, I mentioned the Tome of Leadership and Influence as potentially being one of the books in Scanlan's dream sequence. Well, that book was actually looted from Umbrasyl in the original campaign. So if it was there, maybe this is it here. Other than that, we have this key, which is the main takeaway here. And in the original campaign, there was no such key that was looted, but given how they've been treating spells and power-ups in the show, my best guess is that this key is going to represent some sort of new ability for Scanlan. And my best guess is that it is going to represent the Magnificent Mansion spell. If you know D&D, you know what that is. If you don't, I'm just going to leave it at that because I bet this will be pretty cool next season. My other guess, although I'm pretty sure it's the mansion, would be that this could maybe be representative of the gate spell that Vox Machina and specifically Scanlan will use against one of the later dragons that they fight. I don't think it's that, but I do still hope we get that in the show. In this shot, we can also see some D&D dice trays and dice. These items have popped up in earlier loot hordes. Specifically, I think it was Brimsai Slayer, so these dragons must really love TTRPGs. Next up, we have this bookending moment that complements the one from during the Umbrasyl fight where Scanlan and Vax were talking about fate, and here Scanlan says, I may not believe in the matron, but I believe in you. And ooh, just got me right in the heart. We spoke on their friendship in an earlier episode, and I just love this building block to, build on that. Next up, we get a quick montage which gives us a glimpse at some of the side characters we've met this season. And in particular, I wanted to mention what we see of Wilhand, because in his locket, there is a new photo of Grog, Pike, and Wilhand. And in this photo, Grog is wearing the Titanstone knuckles. And I just thought that was interesting because I guess it implies that Vox Machina went and visited him after they killed Umbrasyl, at least for long enough to make that photo, or painting probably. So just thought it was worth mentioning. Alrighty, y'all. And then the gang heads back to Whitestone. And before we get to the big moment here, one thing I wanted to call out is while they're all sitting around the table, one thing Percy says is 1 down, 3 to go, in reference to the Chroma Conclave. And this is an allusion to something Percy did in the original campaign.
Can you stone shape something for me?
I can help you with that.
Absolutely.
I would like to stone shape. I would like to have Keela stone shape and use 1 dragon scale, if you would be so kind. Or actually 1 tooth, if that would be all right.
Sure, tooth me.
I would like to leave the VM seal on the side of the cavern. And just written in what would a dragon understand?
Draconic.
Draconic. Do we have somebody who can do that? 1 down, and let's embed the tooth into the rock.
Oh shit!
Yes, I like it.
We might as well.
I like it.
I like it.
Might as well.
Fuck them.
I like
it.
So I do the Vox Machina crest. And then.
Does anyone here speak
yeah,
or know
who
Draconic?
speaks Draconic?
All right, so you get with her, you scribble into the ground what that phrase would look like. You go ahead and copy that, and you embed it permanently and immediately into the side of the stone.
Alrighty, y'all, and next up we can put an official end to Larkin Watch 2023. as Raishan reveals herself having taken the form of Keeper Yinin. And the really cool little detail here is that Keeper Yinin has a mole on her face, and when we see her here as the party arrives back to Whitestone, there is no mole. So her duplication of Keeper Yinin is not perfect. Now, in the earlier episode, when they originally get back from the Feywild, I did look, and you never get a good glimpse of that side of Yenin's face, so it's hard to say if this is Raishan or not in that episode. Clearly, here in episode 12, it is, and I'd say it's more than likely her in episode 10, but we don't know. Now, as far as this moment and this reveal in the original campaign, this scene is pretty pitch perfect to it, with one major exception, and that is Raishan does not take on the guise of Keeper Yinin. She takes on the guise of a character named Seeker Assume. Now, Seeker Assume has actually been in the show in both seasons, but in appearance only. They are a member of the Taldore Council, and they just show up briefly. So I think this change makes sense. The show watchers and people that didn't see the original campaign are far more familiar with Keeper Yinin. It's a character we've actually spent some time with. So I think that's why they made the change, and there's not really much to read into it beyond that. I'm sure people have questions, but we will get into that in season 3. But for now, I'll just show you the original campaign.
So, Assume stands up, kind of hands on the table.
Assume, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be insistent here, but if this is as private of information as you seem to be making it out to be, maybe we should go to the room where we know we cannot be spied upon.
I assure you this room is safe. It's going to be a brief discussion.
I would feel more comfortable downstairs. We talked about this.
Before I continue, hear my words. Think before you act. I implore you. Understand that not all is what it seems, and I come to you as an ally.
All right.
Assume's eyes flash a vibrant green for a second, and then become yellowish reptilian orbs. You see a hint of green scales kind of curl across the face. Now please, let us talk. Violence will not end in your favor. You have no plan, no trap. I am smarter, more prepared, and more powerful than all of you. I know of Whitestone, I know your tricks, and I know your weaknesses. If I wished you destroyed right now, I could have done it 1,000-fold already. So consider the fact that we're even having this conversation is me putting forth a lot of effort and intent to have this discussion. No rash actions.
Noted.
Now, let us put our cards on the table, shall we? I, as I'm sure you've noticed, am Raishan. It is a pleasure to meet you in person, slayers of the Hope Devourer and the Iron Storm. I need your help. I wish to kill the Cinder King. And that's where we'll end tonight's
Yeah! Fucking you coming to our house! Wow.
Wow. Look at that little boy smile. He's so pleased.
So yeah, this was a pretty hype moment in the original campaign. And it was a cliffhanger back then, just like it is a far more excruciating cliffhanger now, since we have to wait an entire year. And then finally this season, we get a glimpse of what Thordak has been referring to and what he wants all of this gold for, and that is his brood. He has all of these eggs, and you may be asking yourself, well, is there a Mrs. Thordak? And in fact, there's not. Matt revealed, I believe in one of the after shows one time, that because of Thordak's time spent in the elemental plane of fire, imprisoned there thanks to that thing in his chest, he actually mutated and is able to reproduce asexually. So that's where these eggs are coming from. There's also a lot of D&D lore that could be factoring into this, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what they're doing with this in season 3. But this shot reminded me of the end of the 1998 Godzilla movie. I'm probably dating myself a little bit there, but for those of you that saw it, I'm assuming you thought the same thing. I wondered if they intentionally did that, but not that Godzilla owns all egg hatching cliffhangers, I guess. But yeah, y'all, that's actually gonna do it for season 2 of The Legend of Vox Machina. What a ride. I thought this season was absolutely fantastic, but I won't give you my full review and thoughts here because that's what we've been doing in our podcast every week when we've discussed each of the episodes. And by the time this video comes out, our final 3-episode podcast chunk will be released. So you can go check that out if you're interested. And I think we're going to be putting out a season 2 as a whole kind of retrospect here in a couple of weeks once we've had some time to marinate with it. Alrighty, y'all. All we've got left is the old outro. And I know I already covered all of this in the intro to this video, but allow me to say thank you one more time. Thank you for checking out the channel. Thank you for checking out this video and making it an hour plus deep. Yeah, we made our longest one yet, but it feels appropriate for the finale. And you know what? As a little reward for making it this long, let me let you guys know that we are going to be having a giveaway at 5,000 subscribers. I didn't mention it at the start because, I wanted my diehards to find out. Those of you that made it this far. So if you're already a subscriber, great. If not, maybe that'll push you over the edge. What's the giveaway for, you ask? That's a good question. Blake and I are currently figuring that out. It's going to be something related to Critical Role, obviously. It might be a copy of Tal'Dorei Reborn. And that the only reason we haven't fully decided yet is because people that watch this video maybe don't play D&D. Maybe they just enjoyed the show. So it might be Tal'Dorei Reborn, which if you're not familiar, it is Critical Role's actual D&D book that they put out that includes adventures and stories for you to play your own games within this world. So it might be that, but it might be something more accessible to anyone. So we'll have to find out. But anyways, all you're going to eventually have to do is just be subscribed to us and keep an eye on the channel when we put out more information on what that prize is exactly going to be and how you can officially enter the drawing. We'll probably have you comment on a certain video or something. So keep an eye out for that. And let me give one last quick plug to the socials, y'all. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. In TikTok's case specifically, we're really trying to reach 1,000 followers. It'll enable us to be able to go live on that account, and we're only about 50 away. So if you use TikTok, check us out. But other than that, y'all, just genuinely thank you. And if it's my moonshot here, but if somehow a member of the cast sees these breakdowns, I'm sure there's no way they're going to make it an hour deep in one. I know they're too busy. But if that somehow happens, wow, thank you. Just thank you for everything you've done. These have been an absolute labor of love on my part, and I'm so happy that this story is out there. So thank you for making it. And really, honestly, beyond just the cast, anyone that works for Critical Role or works for Titmouse to help put this together, just thank you for your beautiful work. And other than that, y'all, I gotta leave you on one last clip. But as of recording this, I haven't picked anything. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'll figure out something. So enjoy.
Whoa.
It took me weeks to forge it.
This is beautiful. Can I hit something with it?
Sure.
What can I hit with it?
Scanlan, where are you?
I take
Scanlan, come
10
in.
paces back right away.
Just stand right there.
Oh, sure. Whatever you need.
I'll reach back halfway and give like a quarter measure. Whoop! Right into Scanlan.
Make an attack roll.
I thought you were going to...
We'll say with disadvantage because you are taking a half measure.
Oh, about the same as the firebrandish?
It would be. It's technically non-magical.
Okay.
So
14.
14. You managed to just barely see this thing coming towards you, and woof, just duck beneath it.
I thought you were gonna tell me a dirty joke or something. When you say come here, that's what that means.
No, I want you to try out the hammer.
Oh, well then, no. Try it on Vax.
I'm already 20 paces away.
Vax.
I go stealth.
Roll stealth. Roll perception.
Vax. Shit.
27.
2.
As you might to look around, Vax is nowhere to be seen.
I literally just pivoted around my sister and pressed.
Doing exactly what she does.
I'm gonna use minor illusion to make a really shitty Vax. Just like a really cruddy looking.
Slightly
Vax.
melted.
Not in Vasselheim.
Oh shit! It's too late.
Too late. So, as you're looking around, you see this strange quiver of shadow that seems to formulate in the air, and this awkward, still, unmoving, awkward mannequin type visual recreation of Vax just kind of muddles up there. I need you to roll an insight check.
Please be low.
4.
Finally! Vax cannot evade your vision this time, bro.
Just stand right there.
Well, I swing down in an arc to try and
Okay.
hit Vax.
With this weird, awkward half grin just frozen in place, the hammer whoosh, streaks down through this form and passes completely through it, slamming into the mud beneath, splattering mud up and around you, across your chest, and for a brief instant, Vax completely seems to have evaded the attack.
Oh! I killed him! It's all over me! His bits are all over me!
Not his blood.
How could you? My brother!
What did you give me?
It's a hell of a hammer, isn't it?
With that, the illusion is dissipated, and Vax is no longer there before you.
I've killed him. I've killed poor Vax.
Come here, darling.
What is this evil monstrosity?
No. Come here. And I lead him
My
around
God.
the side of Vex. And
Hey, big.
You're alive! Come here! I give him a big old squeeze. And I squeeze a little tighter and make sure he doesn't turn into mud. He turned into mud last time.
The harder he squeezes you, you fear you may turn into mud.
Ooh, did it hurt? Did the moon hammer hurt you?
No, I was able to dodge both ways apart, and then came back together. It's my cloak does that.
Shit, this is like... We're gonna save this for the really nasty fellas.
Yes.
Alright, I'm gonna put this in a bag.
Alright.
You know, if like a kid or Scanlan or Puck sees it, she'll be so furious.
Yeah, she'll be terrible.
Alright, I'll put it in a bag.
Alright, at this point, Kima has pulled a small flask out and just takes a swig and goes, oh, I've missed you.